Hi everyone, today we're going to be creating a spreadsheet that allows us to calculate how much money it's going to cost us to pay off a credit card. We can use this spreadsheet later in life to be able to kind of model out different ideas for how quick to pay off a card, how much money it will save us to do different things. All right, let's jump into it. First thing you want to do is open up Google Drive and go to your personal finance folder. If you don't have one, go ahead and create one. We'll be putting things in it multiple times throughout the year. And then come over to once you're in that folder, come over to the New button and choose Google Sheets. When you do that, it will open up a new Google Sheet for you. I've gone through and changed my font size to 20 so that you can read it easier. You don't need to do that part. Let's name this thing, and let's call this Credit Card Payoff Calculator. Missed an L. All right, awesome. And now what we're going to do is, to do these calculations, we've got to calculate our interest every month and our payment every month. So we're going to build out one of those tables we've been working on. They're called amortization tables. So the first thing we're going to put here is, let's type in month here. And next to it, we're going to do balance, just like we did before. Next to that, the interest that we're paying and the end balance. Whoa, that was not right. And then next to that, the payment. This way we can see what's happening in our table and be able to follow along each month. I'm going to highlight all 5 of these. I just put my material into and double click between 2 of them, and what it'll do is resize them to fit all the different headings there perfectly. All right, let's put October 2024 in this first cell. Let's see how big that's going to get. And I just went between cells A and B and clicked, and that made cell or column A full size. So between the headings A and B up here, if you get this sort of left-right arrow thing, you double click that, it'll actually make that bigger, or you can just click and drag and make it bigger if you want to as well. All right, so now we want this to kind of fill in automatically for us as we go down. So what we're going to do, if we just drag it, let's see what happens. We get the exact same thing all the way down. So there's a function inside spreadsheets, and it is called eDate. So you do equals, because you're doing a formula, eDate, and what this does, it adds a number of months to the date, the date above. So the start date, I'm going to click on this one up here. This is my start date. I'm going to do comma and 1 month. So that second number is how many months you want to add. I hit enter, and instead of putting October twice, it does November. Now if I click back on November 2024, I can copy and paste this formula or this thing all the way down. And we're going to do a whole bunch of months because it's so easy to do them. So 240 months, that's 20 years. So hopefully that's more than enough time for you to pay off your credit card. All right. Now the balance we've got to get from somewhere else. So let's create our next table. And this one's going to be over here on the side somewhere. Actually, before we do that, let's highlight the whole table, including column E. All right. And then we're going to add a border to it. We're going to have borders here and add the full borders. That'll turn it and make it look more like a table. All right. So that's that one. And then cell G1 over here, I'm going to create a new one called credit card information. And down this one, let's do current date. This is where we'll enter our information. Over here, the calculations will happen. And then down below, we'll say current balance. Down below that is APR. And down below that is payment. So what I'm going to do is double click between G and H. That gets you to the full size. I'm actually going to shrink it back down a little bit to just being bigger than current balance. highlight G1 and H1, and then do the merge cells button. If you can't see at the top here, there's 3 little dots here that show you a more menu if your screen's a little smaller. Click on those, and that's usually where the merge cell is as well. And then I'm going to highlight all of these and then just put a border around this table. And just to set it off, I'm going to put a bit of a fill to it. I'm going to put a dark gray fill and then change the text to white. Okay, so current date, and this is where we're going to actually put the October 2024. Make mine a little wider. And now actually what I want to do is whenever I change this current date, I want that to update over here and change this one. So I'm going to come back over here to where I said October 24 here. I'm going to put an equal sign and then just click on this one. That way this information feeds into that one over here. So this one's always equal to H2 now. Hit enter, and nothing changed here because everything's working fine. All right. Current balance. So let's use a current balance on our credit card of $3,600. That's what we'll work with at first. Notice it's not showing up as money, so I'm going to come over here and hit the dollar sign to show currency, and that's perfect. And now my APR. So my APR, I don't know, is like 22%. Let's do that. So 0.22 we'll enter here, and then we'll click on it and we'll do percent. Now, if I were to go back and undo this, and instead of, I would just say 22 and then hit the percent button, notice how it adds those 2 extra spaces for me. So that would be 2200%. I just need to go back and remember, okay, no, I did 22, and now it works fine because it was already set to be a percent. So just work through how you have to make it work. All right, and this is the amount of money you want to pay off. So let's say that we're going to pay off $300 a month for this. And here we're going to turn dollars on as well. And yep, that looks perfect. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to start feeding our data into our table. So our current balance, this is what we're starting with, so that's going to go in this first cell right here. So I'm going to come over to this cell B2 and hit equals. Come back over here and click on current balance. Hit enter, and now that's showing up. It's suggesting a different fill. I don't want to use its suggested autofill, so we'll turn that off. I'll make this balance one a little wider. I'm going to make it a little extra wide just in case we ever have a $10,000 balance here. We can have room for it to fit. And then now we need to do the interest. How much interest are we going to be charged? So here we're going to go equals, and the interest is going to be the current balance, this one, times, so times is an asterisk. Whoops, I didn't click on it first, sorry. Click on the current balance and then times, and come over here to the APR and click on it. Now the APR tells you how much interest you're going to earn in an entire year. So if I hit enter here, I would pay $792 in an entire year. But if I'm worried about just this month, I need to divide by 12. So I'm going to double click on this and then add a divided by 12, and that'll give me my monthly interest. So this month I was charged $66 in interest because I had $3,600 of debt. My ending balance is simply what I started with plus my interest. Enter is this. Now the payment one is going to come from this one. So whatever I type in here in my table should pop over here automatically. So I'm going to go equals and then click on this one and enter. All right. Now what happens is I send my payment in, and my balance I used to have goes down by this amount. So my new balance next month, I'm going to click on this cell B3 equals my ending balance from last month minus the payment I sent in. And that's going to give me my new balance for the next month. Now, if everything's right, if I copy this down, I should have the new interest here, the new ending balance, and the new payment. Everything should be working just great. So let's find out what happens. So I'm going to drag this one down. Ooh, that doesn't feel like the right number. So it went from $66 in interest to $84,150. So you got to look a little close what we're doing. So if I look at this one says B3, which is this one, that's right, times H5, H5 is this. Oh, I see what's happened. Yeah, H5 has moved down a row. So when I copy and pasted this cell down a row, all of these addresses moved down as well. Notice that this one went from B2 to B3. This one went from H4 to H5. The only problem is we don't want to move down and have this be our APR next. So I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to delete this one that's wrong. Come back up here and say, you know what? We want to freeze H4. So we're going to put a shift $ in front of the H and in front of the 4. That'll keep us on that cell when we go to copy and paste. Here I'm going to copy down, and that feels right. So it's a little bit less interest, so that feels great. We'll do the next one and see how it's working. That one's working fine. It looks like it added a little bit of money to our beginning balance. And then let's look at the payment one. And that one's doing the same thing. So H5 went to H6. So we went from H5 to H6, which is empty. That's why there's nothing in there. So then what we need to do is come up here and do $. We actually only need it in front of the 5 to keep the 5 the same. So enter, and then let's check that real quick. Okay, awesome. So that's working. So I'm going to highlight all of these all the bottom row here, and just drag them straight down to the very bottom of the table, and we'll see what happens. All right. So you can see I have a bunch of negative numbers here, which is weird. But let's go back up and see what happens. All right, so there's our beginning balance. We're paying our debt off, and right here is where we pay it off. And this is what would happen if you kept sending in money after you paid off your debt. It would be weird to do. Don't do that. So we'll deal with that in the next video. Good job so far, everybody. Hang in there.